everyone, today I wanted to share my favorite music that I discovered in 2022 with you. A couple quick disclaimers, sorry for any background noise or dust particles that may occur throughout this video. Also, I'm going to have my phone kind of just scrolling through this little playlist that I made, just going over everything. So first up is going to be Backup Plan by a girl named Tom. Think that this is a great song.
I forgot to add that I really like their album Hits from the Road. This is something that I also just listened to this past year, so it's mostly filled with covers and stuff. And so my favorites, I really love their rendition of Carolina on My Mind, and I also really like Evergreen as well. And there's some great highlights on this thing. I think that their cover of Billie Jean by Michael Jackson is absolutely egregious, and I don't know why they put that out. So there's a few songs on here I don't like, but on the whole, this is an enjoyable offering.
And then next up, I'm going to have Everything I Wanted by Libianca. So this is a Billie Eilish cover. I thought that her take on it was something that was nice to listen to. And then we are going to have A Beginner's Mind by Sufjan Stevens and Angelo De Agostine. Like I said before, this is one of the most beautiful albums that I've ever heard. I really love tracks like Fictional California. I also really like Simmer and Shade, I Believe, and I love Reach Out. So I think that it's a great record. I feel like I haven't got to listen to it this year as much as I would have liked, but I really love this album. And like I said in my favorite albums of the year video, if I would have listened to this in 2021, it definitely would have made my list because I really enjoy it. So definitely a great record. I would highly recommend listening to it if you haven't already. Next up is going to be Yola's Stand For Myself album. So the way that I got into Yola was I saw a video that Mike the Snare did recommending this album, and then I saw the album cover and I was like, that looks really intriguing. So I actually did do a reaction on it, and all the videos that I've referenced will be linked down below if you guys want to check them out. So I did listen to this record and I loved it. I've listened to this album a bunch this year. I love Be My Friend. That's probably my favorite track. Starlight is amazing. Now You're Here, the title track, like she just has such a beautiful voice, and so I just really like how versatile that she is, and I really love this album on the whole and the messaging on it. And yeah, so I really fell in love with this album, one of my favorite sophomore albums of all time. And then this prompted me to want to listen to her debut record, which I thought was great as well. Love Is Light is something that I just keep coming back to. Like I said, the chord progression on that song really reminds me of the Golden Girls theme song, which I love. I also really love Lonely the Night. Deep Blue Dream is gorgeous. The cover that she did of Elton John's Yellow Brick Road ate him up in the studio. I do not know what else to tell you. So yeah, overall I think Yola's a great artist, and I'm just really excited to see what she does next, and I really enjoyed getting into her music this past year. It's been a lot of fun. And then next up is going to be Amy Winehouse's Back to Black album, another one of my favorite sophomore albums of all time, and so I'm really glad that I gave this a listen. I don't remember what prompted me to want to listen to her music. Maybe I saw people on Twitter talking about her. I have done this with a few artists where I see a lot of my mutuals talking about them, like, I need some new music, let me give it a shot. So maybe it was that. I'm not really sure what prompted me to want to get into her discography, but I'm really glad that I gave this a shot. I think that she was a great songwriter. I really like her voice. Like, her singing style was something that was unique and something that's interesting to listen to. A lot of people try to rip her off with that and they just can't sing, so it doesn't go well. Somehow she's able to pull it off. So I really appreciated her voice on the record, and I also really like the production on here as well. And so it's just a really fascinating record to listen to on the whole. I love the title track. I love Rehab, of course. I also really like whenever she does this little sample of Ain't No Mountain High Enough, and then she put her own song over top of it, Tears Dry My Own. I thought that was a great track on the album. I love Some Unholy War, and yeah, on the whole, this album is just something that is really interesting to listen to in terms of the subject matter. Like I said, she's an amazing songwriter, so everything just really tied together with that, and also with the vocals, and just what a great sophomore record. I think that there's no bad songs on this thing, so I was really happy that I checked this out this past year. Just very unique on the whole. And then I listened to her debut album, Frank, one of my favorite debut albums of all time for sure. And so I really love Take the Box. Just like the raw emotion on that, the vocal performance, the lyrics, everything really came together nicely on that. I also really love In My Bed. I feel like the instrumentation probably stands out to me the most on the track, but I really love all the elements about it. What Is It About Men? You have Brother. Like, so many great songs on this record. Again, the only song that I would skip is Amy, 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 because like I said, I just can't really get into that song sonically. But overall, a great record that you should definitely check out. And so I really like her music. It's definitely giving me more so like a jazz, alternative, indie, pop kind of thing. Some people said that she was an R&B artist, and for me, I do not see it. Whenever I think R&B, I think like Aaliyah, Mariah Carey, Janet Jackson, Beyonce. Like, it's a specific type of sound. I feel like it doesn't give R&B, to me at least. I would like to know if you guys would consider her an R&B artist, because I never did. When I saw people doing that, I was like, R&B, really? Like, some people try to call Adele R&B. Adele's not R&B. That one makes adult contemporary pop music, and that's fine. I like Adele's music, but I don't think that she's she's an R&B artist. So on the whole, I can appreciate both of these records, and it's just unfortunate that she went through so much, and you know, all respect, rest in peace. And so just what an incredible talent on the whole. The next song is going to be I Give by Jershika Maple. I could definitely appreciate this, great writer, singer, and really excited to see what she does next. Hopefully we get an album from her this next year, but I found her on The Voice, and so it's been really interesting to get to hear her own music. Next up is going to be Whitney Houston's I'm Your Baby Tonight album. So on the whole, I think that this is an amazing album to listen to. I feel like this is her best album, and the reason why is I feel like a lot of her other albums are just overloaded with ballads and there's not enough up-tempos, but I feel like this one was a better mix of that, and so you really get to hear her on some really dynamic instrumentals. You have the title track, which I really love. The way that she only sung that song once to the studio because she wanted to go to the mall, like that is something that is so interesting to me overall, and she just really killed that vocal, so I really love that overall. I like My Name Is Not Susan. I can appreciate that track. And then you also have a song like Who Do You Love, which was produced by Luther Vandross. It's just really a treat to get to hear her voice just soar over all these different instrumentals, right? You have the duet with Stevie Wonder, We Didn't Know, which is an excellent song. Lover for Life is probably my favorite Whitney Houston song. I've listened to that song many times throughout the entire year, and I just adore it so much. And it just takes me to a certain place. So I feel like she really nailed the vocal on that song, particularly After We Make Love. Like I said, I still don't really care for that song very much. Like I've skipped it a lot. And then also Miracle, like I just can't really get into that song on the whole. But on the whole, I think that this is like a great pop R&B record that you should check out if you wanted to get into her music. I feel like this is the best album to kind of get into everything. And then I also really quite appreciate the songwriting on this record. It's great, the production, everything comes together on here nicely. So I really enjoy this. I love the album cover as well. And Whitney Houston, of course, one of the best singers of all time. I need to listen to her entire discography again because I just need to, you know, refresh my memory, and maybe there's a few hidden gems that I missed. But this album is one that has been in my rotation throughout the year. So I really like this one. And then also speaking of Whitney, I rediscovered her song If I Told You That off of her My Love Is Your Love album. And basically the way that I got back into this song is I was watching an interview that Rodney Jerkins did, who was the producer of the song, and he was talking about, you know, making a song and everything. And I was like, like the way that he's describing it, it's really interesting. So let me go give that a listen. And that is probably like my second favorite Whitney Houston song. The production on there is phenomenal. Her vocal over that, the lyrics, just wow, that is an amazing track that I've also played a fair amount of times throughout this year, and it better make my top songs list next year because I love the one so much. So yeah, love Whitney Houston, of course, and so it was really a treat to get to discover the I'm Your Baby Tonight album for the first time this year.
So I just realized that I forgot to add this one, but I love Whitney's rendition of Joy to the World. And so basically the way that I got into this one is one of my mutuals on Twitter was talking about it, and I said, you know what, let me give it a listen, and I was just floored at it because, like I said before, I really appreciate whenever people take classic traditional songs and then they add their own twist onto it. And so I really like how it's, you know, an up-tempo version of it. The arrangement on here is fabulous to listen to. Whitney on here vocally is amazing. I just really love what she does, and very dynamic vocal performance. I love the choir, I love the instrumentation. So yeah, amazing. Definitely one of my favorite, you know, Christmas records of all time. I added it onto my Christmas playlist. If you've never heard her version of it before, I would highly recommend checking it out. But I was like, I have to add this in because it really floored me on first listen.
Next up is going to be Lauryn Hill's album that she did for MTV Unplugged. A lot of people hate this record. I feel like I'm one of the only people who actually enjoys it, and I know that it's different from the debut record, very R&B and rap oriented. In this one, she's playing an acoustic guitar the entire time. You have the interludes. So I guess I can understand in a certain sense why people wouldn't enjoy it. But this is something that I like on the whole. I haven't got to revisit it as much as I would have liked this year, but whenever I do listen to it, it's something that I can really appreciate. I really like Mystery of Iniquity. I like I Get Out. I think that there's some great songs on here, so I can appreciate this one and a different approach in terms of the instrumentation, of the singing, so it's good to me. Next up, I wanted to talk about Brandy. So I finally finished her discography. I talked about her last year. That was whenever I first discovered her music because Mariah was like, I love Brandy, she's very underrated. So that's actually how I got into her. And I listened to the Full Moon album, and I also listened to Never Say Never, and then I listened to Aphrodisiac last year, I believe. And so I just got really hooked to Full Moon and also Never Say Never so much, and I just kept listening to those over and over again. And so it was really hard for me to finally finish the discography. But then I wanted to do a video saying my favorite songs from her, and I also really wanted to finish the discography. I was like, it's time to finally listen to the rest of these albums, right? And so I finally got to, you know, listen to everything and just see how I felt about it on the whole. And I feel like I still need more re-listens of the albums, of course, because I don't really know them as well as I would like. So I did a reaction to the debut album. I absolutely loved it. Baby is an insane song, and it's crazy just how amazing the vocal is on there and how influential that song is on the whole. And listening to it, I could definitely tell that she influenced Christina Aguilera just based off of the riffs and runs. Like, it just definitely gave that. And I saw this clip of her producer saying that in between recording her album that she would be listening to Mariah, Carey, and Brandy. I was like, I absolutely knew it. And I was thinking that in that video, and I didn't say it. I wanted to research and just make sure that like I wasn't the only one who was thinking that, but I was like, yep, it's crazy to be so influential at such a young age. And the fact that she was like 14, 15 whenever she recorded this is absolutely insane. She did such a great job vocally, and so she has influences, sure, like she loves Whitney, she loves Mariah, but she definitely had her own style. So it was really interesting to listen to in that regard. I also think Baby is an excellent song, by the way. Definitely one of my favorites on the album. I, of course, love I Wanna Be Down. I put that as one of my favorite debut singles of all time. And that song is just excellent. It's aged like fine wine. She absolutely ate that song up. Sunny Day is a great track. I love Broken Hearted as well. Overall, I think it's a great debut album that shows off her vocal styling as well, and she would just improve upon this vocally and artistically.
So this year I watched Waiting to Exhale for the first time, right? And naturally I decided to listen to the entire soundtrack, and I just realized that apparently this year was the first time that I heard Brandy's song sitting up in my room. I could have sworn that I listened to it last year, but I don't have it liked in my library till about March. So I thought that was really interesting, so I wanted to talk about that song really quickly. So definitely one of my favorite Brandy songs. Her vocal on here is superb. Absolutely ate that up. I really love the production and songwriting by Babyface, and so yeah, one of my favorite Brandy songs and one of my favorite R&B songs of all time. And then also I really love this song that Whitney did for the soundtrack called Why Does It Hurt So Bad. And she did this one live performance of it. I'm pretty sure you guys know which one I'm talking about, but it's like the first one that comes up whenever you search up a live performance for the song on YouTube. And so I thought that she sounded stellar on that as well. So I wanted to take a second to shout out those two songs because I forgot about it for a second. And man, this year has been really long because I could have sworn I discovered it last year, but I wanted to throw that in.
I really like the song Aphrodisiac off of that album. I think Sedity is a great track, and I need to revisit Aphrodisiac probably like a time or two because I feel like that album doesn't really stick with me like Full Moon and like a Never Say Never. Like it's just not really hitting me in the same way. You know, like I listen to these songs and I completely forget what they sound like, so I definitely need to give that a revisit. But I really like those songs off for Aphrodisiac. And then the album that she did after Aphrodisiac was going to be the Human album, and honestly I was kind of dreading listening to this album because I swear I saw people on Twitter saying like they hated this album and that it wasn't very good, right? And then I got to it and I was actually pleasantly surprised. I love Torn Down. I think that is a great track, so that's probably my favorite song off of the whole thing. And then there's probably like another highlight or two that I'm not remembering at this point in time, but there's a few gems on there, so I actually appreciated that a lot more than I expected.
In regards to the 211 album, I definitely need to give it a re-listen because off first listen I remember liking none of the songs, so I need to come back to it and see like if that opinion holds true or whatever. So I definitely wanted to have that noted because I didn't talk about it at all. And then also I do want to rank her discography at some point. Maybe it'll come next year. I know she's working on a new record. I don't know if that'll be out next year or whenever, but definitely that is something that is a priority for me because I really have a lot of thoughts on her albums and I want to talk about that in depth, but I figured I would add this in.
Now I wanted to share a few favorites off of the B7 album. So I love Borderline. That has to be one of my favorite Brandy songs ever. I think that it's gorgeous. I really love how she just sings all the way throughout the track. Really interesting to listen to. Everything comes together really, really nice in that song. Like just the atmosphere of it really is something that is like enchanting to listen to. So I love Borderline. She ate that up. And then I also really quite love No Tomorrow. I think that that's a really interesting song for the melody alone. Rather Be is a great track. And then I also really love Say Something. That might be my favorite song on the record. It's between that and Borderline. I kind of go back in between those, but I just really like her presence on the track and kind of how she commands your attention listening to that. So those are like my favorite Brandy songs that I've discovered this year that I wasn't really familiar with in the past. So really think Brandy is an amazing singer. She has a lot of great songs, so I appreciate Brandy on the whole, and so I'm glad that I finally finished her discography this year because it took me forever to do so. Next up is going to be Destiny Fulfilled by Destiny's Child, and so I'm so thrilled that I got to listen to this record because I remember people saying like, oh, this is their best album, and I would heavily agree with that. Michelle dominated on this album. She ate every part that she had up. The bridges, like this album just really came together nicely, and I feel like all of them really had their time to shine vocally, and it's such a treat. And I feel like this is their best album. I feel like it's aged the best, and it's something that I really enjoy listening to. And I really love the place that it takes me listening to it. A track like Is She the Reason? The production strikes me the most, but I really like everything about it. And then T-Shirt, it's a song I can appreciate. Not a favorite, but I think that it's a good song, right? And then you have Girl, like I love that song. The bridge on there, just everything on the song really comes together nicely. And then you also have Free, my favorite song on the record. I love If as well. You have Through With Love, which is an incredible song, and just, yeah, they were really in their bag with this one, and I feel like it was the perfect album to end off Destiny's Child with, and it lives to the title, Destiny Fulfilled. You know, I feel like they really lived up to their full potential on this record. Like I said before, I did skip the song Soldier because Tia is on it, and I cannot stand Tia, and so I haven't heard that song in full. Like, I've heard like the version that they did for Beyonce's Homecoming album, and I might have heard like little parts of it online, but I've like avoided that song. But you know, all the other songs on the album are great, and I really appreciate this album. It's one that really never gets old. Every time I put it on, I'm like, ah, this is such a good record. I listened to D'Angelo's entire discography this year, which was pretty cool overall, and I really enjoyed myself. Like I said before, my favorite album is his first record. I think that that's his best, and I'm sure that that's an unpopular opinion. I know a lot of people love Voodoo, but his first one, I like the songs in it the most and has the most replay value for me. So I really love the title track. I put that on my favorite debut singles of all time, and the album's on my favorite debut albums of all time as well. And then you also have a song like Cruisin', the one with all the cuss words that I don't want to say, but you guys know exactly which one I'm talking about. I love that song so much. When We Get By, High, like just so many excellent songs on this record. So I love it. It doesn't overstay its welcome. I really appreciate his talents as not only a singer, but a songwriter and an instrumentalist. A great neo soul record. In terms of my favorite songs on his second record, I really like Spanish Joint and Untitled How Does It Feel. In terms of my favorite record on his third album, I think I'm gonna go with Betray My Heart. Also, I Found My Smile Again is a great song as well. I really enjoy his discography on the whole. Need to give it a re-listen for sure. I'm the most familiar with his first album because that's the one that I play the most, but very, very talented overall. If you like R&B, neo soul, then you should definitely check him out if you haven't already. And then next up, we have Stevie Wonder, and I'm so glad that I finally got into his music and just wow. And so I actually started off first with his classic album, Songs in the Key of Life. I did a whole reaction to it, and that was like my first hour-long video, but I had so much fun listening to it. Classic after classic after classic. I mean, the fact that you have a song like Loves and Need to Love Today, Have a Talk with God, you know, just amazing songs in their own right. But you also have Black Man, which is favorites, Isn't She Lovely? And then you have a song like I Wish on there. I almost forgot about Somersault, which is probably my favorite song on the record, if I'm honest. Pastime Paradise, like hit after hit. As, how did I almost forget about As? That song, like, so many excellent songs on this. And so this is just one of the greatest R&B albums of all time, and Stevie is so ridiculously talented as a singer, as a songwriter, as an instrumentalist. He really understands chord progression, he understands melody. Everything on this album is such a treat to listen to. No bad songs in this. I don't listen to it as much as I would like because it's a long album, and if I'm going to listen to it, I like to listen to the entire thing because I feel like it deserves nothing less. But wow, this is one of the best albums ever. So if you have not checked this out and you love R&B music, you have to listen to it because he just really does such an amazing job on this, and probably his best album objectively. And then I also did listen to Inner Visions, of course. That might be my favorite Stevie album. I feel like I listened to that more just because it's a shorter record. Like I said, the first song, Too High, I do skip that just because I can't get into it, but it's a really strong record. I love Golden Lady. Like I said, he really struck gold with that chord progression. That song is gorgeous. I also really like Don't You Worry About a Thing. That might be my favorite Stevie song. Like the elements of that song, the instrumentation, the groove that they locked into that one specifically. I love that song so much. Jesus Children of America is fantastic. He tackles politics on a song like He's Mr. Know-It-All, which is interpreted to be a diss towards Nixon. He's talking about, you know, racism on a song like Living for the City, and he does it well. And so on the whole, I love Inner Vision so much. Definitely a masterpiece, of course. And I've listened to other Stevie albums, so I know that I've listened to Talking Book, and so I know that I really like Superstition off there. There might be like another song or two that I really like, so I need to revisit that one again, and I definitely need to revisit his entire discography. I feel like I've listened to some of his albums multiple times, but I really need to give his entire discography the respect that it deserves for sure. And hopefully this time next year, I'm going to be talking about my favorite songs on the other albums. I just got so locked into these two albums specifically, and anytime I want to listen to him, those are my go-tos. But yeah, Stevie Wonder, one of the best songwriters of all time, one of the best singers of all time, insane instrumentalist, and just so ridiculously talented. So all respect to Stevie, and I'm really glad that I got into his music this year. Next up, I have Anytime You Need a Friend, Soul Convention mix. And so the way that I got into this one is I believe I saw my mutuals talking about it on Twitter, and I was like, I don't really think that I've heard that one before, you know, let me go give it a listen. And so I love it. A different vibe from the original, but something that is still equally excellent. Like I said before, what I really appreciate about Mariah's remixes is just how she reimagined the song. She's gonna go in and re-sing the vocal, the instrumentation is gonna be different. So I just really like what she tapped into on this remix, and every time I listen to it, I highly appreciate it. So I would recommend this one if you like the original version of it. Different vibe, but still equally great. Next up, I have Kelly Clarkson's All I Ever Wanted album. For whatever reason, my favorite songs on this record are escaping me. I think that means I just have to listen to it again. But I remember really enjoying this one. I definitely need to listen to her entire discography, and next year that is definitely the plan because she's going to be releasing a new album, so that's definitely going to want to prompt me to listen to everything. But I remember enjoying this record, so I would definitely recommend it if you like pop rock music. Next up, I have Selena's Dreaming of You album. So this was something I listened to like midway throughout the year. I have to revisit it again, but I really liked I Could Fall in Love with You. I thought that was a great song. Of course, I already knew Dreaming with You, so I do love that song as well. And yeah, Selena was just taken from us far too soon. Someone who had a lot of talent for sure. Next up, I continued my journey with listening to Earth, Wind & Fire's music this year. So I discovered them last year. Again, I don't really remember why I wanted to get into their music. Again, maybe I saw people talking about them on Twitter or something, but I'm really glad I discovered them because I think that they have some great stuff. They just put me in such a great mood, and just what talents as singers, as writers, as instrumentalists. So I really appreciate their talents on the whole. I also listened to their I Am album as well. I really appreciate Let's Groove, of course. I really like Wanna Be With You. You Are a Winner is a great song as well. I like My Love. So there's a lot to love about this album. I really like the energy of it. And so I did listen to their I Am album. Can't Let Go is probably my favorite song on there. The melody on there is just ridiculous. So I love that song so much. And then I also really like the collaboration that they did with the Emotions, Boogie Wonderland as well. And then I checked out the All in All album by them. Like I said, this has to be their best album artistically. They were just at their peak and just strong song after strong song on this record. So there's just so much to love about it overall. I really love Fantasy. I really like the progression on the track. It takes you to a completely different place than you think, but it's something that's really enjoyable to listen to. I'll Write a Song for You is gorgeous. I love the vocal in there. I love the writing. I love the instrumental. It is just something that I thoroughly appreciated listening to. Definitely a highlight for me on the record. Next up is going to be Luther Vandross. So I did listen to his debut record and also his second record as well. In terms of the debut, great record, and I really appreciate his talents as a singer, a writer, a producer as well. And he just really had material that suited him quite well and something that was really enjoyable to listen to on the whole. Never Too Much is definitely one of my favorite debut singles of all time. It is just something that has that classic feel to it all the way down from the instrumentation, the wonderful guitar, the drums. His vocal on here is just magical to listen to. Definitely one of my favorite singers of all time, so I adore that song so much. I also really love Do You Know That as well, and then I thought that his cover of A House Is Not a Home was brilliant, and so that's something that I really appreciated. In terms of my favorite songs on the second record, I really love Bad Boy, Having a Party. The title track is gorgeous to listen to, and then I also really appreciate Better Love and Promise Me as well. So overall, Luther was very talented. Excited to dive into more of his discography next year. Next up is going to be 24 Play by Janet Jackson. I never heard the song until this year because it wasn't on streaming platforms, and so it finally got put on and I listened to it, and it is such a delightful song. Definitely one of my favorite Janet Jackson songs of all time. She just absolutely ate this up. So really enjoyable to listen to. Love the production, love the vocal, love the lyrics. Everything really ties together in here nicely, so I really love the song. Next up, I wanted to talk about Anita Baker. So I have listened to 3 of her records this year. First up, I started off with her sophomore album, Rapture, and that is a beautiful record. Sweet Love is such a great track, and so that was something that I was really appreciate. You Bring Me Joy is absolutely gorgeous. I love No One in the World, so that's a really great sophomore record in my opinion, and I've been playing it throughout the year. And then I listened to her Giving You the Best That I Got album. Priceless is a gorgeous song. Like I said, it kind of reminds me of Lover for Life by Whitney Houston, which like I said is my favorite Whitney song. And then you also have the title track, which I think is just great, and then I also really like Good Love as well. And then I listened to her Compositions album most recently. Favorites on here are going to be Talk to Me. Lonely is probably my favorite song on this record. I love No One to Blame. I love Fairy Tales as well. Probably her best album. I feel like every album I listen to, she's just growing artistically, and so something that's a treat to listen to. But like I said, Anita has this really classy voice, and so it's just really interesting to listen to on the whole, and so I really quite enjoyed getting into her music. Next up, I have Alicia Keys written down. So a subscriber recommended that I listen to her discography, and so I've listened to some of her albums. First up, I started off with the debut, and so there's some really strong tracks on here. Obviously, I've heard Fallen before. I put that on my favorite debut singles of all time list. But there's also a lot of other great tracks in here. Girlfriend, I think it's just ridiculously catchy as well, so I really like that. I really like Jane Doe, which is a song that she wrote with Candy Burris, and I don't agree with the sentiment, but a banger's a banger, so I actually really enjoy that song. Butterflies, definitely like a top 5 Alicia Keys song for me. Like the melody on there is gorgeous, and it's something that's so mesmerizing to listen to, and it really hooks you in. I also love A Woman's Worth as well. The instrumentation, the pocket that she gets into vocally, the lyric, it's always been a standout for me on the record, and one that I played outside the context of the album a fair amount of times this year. So overall, I feel like the first record is her best album. I do not know why whenever I recorded my reaction to her third album, I was like, oh, this is her best based on first listen, because I had more skips on that than the first album. I think I was more so saying there was like more stronger tracks than that, but yeah, the first album is her best, so I wanted to kind of, you know, correct that. Her first album, that's the one that I go to the most, and very talented as a singer, as a writer, as an instrumentalist, as a producer, so I really appreciate her contributions on the first record, and that's the one that I'd recommend. And then next up, I listened to her sophomore record, which is going to be The Diary of Alicia Keys. A lot of people say this is her best. Like I said, I think this is the first one. It's just better. Like, I just go back to it far more often than this one, but I think that it's a good album on the whole. And so some of my favorite songs on here are going to be If I Ain't Got You. Of course, I've heard this song before, but really love it. The chord progression on here is just insane. The vocal, the songwriting, I think that she just wrote a classic with this, so I actually really enjoy it. And then Dragon Days is a great song as well, and I can also appreciate Wake Up. And then next up, I listened to her third record, which is going to be As I Am. In terms of my favorite songs on the third record, I really liked Go Ahead. Of course, I know the song No One, but I still think that it's a great track. I really like the bridge on there as well. And then I also really quite love Teenage Love Affair. Definitely my favorite songs on the album. And so I definitely want to do a video on Alicia Keys next year talking about her entire discography and just give my thoughts there, because I have a lot, and so I need to finish it. I've listened to a fair amount of her albums, so I want to finish it and then give thoughts on there. But really glad that I checked out her discography, because I feel like she has some gems. I really like Lucy Dacus's Historian album. I think that the best song on there is definitely going to be Night Shift. I appreciate it on the whole. I think there's like 2 tracks that I skipped like towards the end, but I can appreciate it for what it is. A great writer. I really like her voice as well. I like the production on this record. And then next up, let's talk about Aretha Franklin. So I probably wanted to listen to her because people are talking about her on Twitter like I do for a lot of these artists. I don't really remember what prompted me to want to check her out, but I'm so glad I did. Like I said before, Aretha is slowly becoming one of my favorite artists of all time. She has multiple classic albums under her belt, and just one of the best singers of all time, the Queen of Soul for a reason. And before getting into her music, I had no clue that she was such a talented songwriter as well as piano player, and so that was really impressive to me on the whole. And so just really glad that I dived into everything. So first up, I started off with Aretha Now. Favorite tracks on there, I really love her cover of I Say a Little Prayer. I love her arrangement of it. I think that she did a great job with that. Her cover of You Send Me is great as well. And then I also really like I Can't See Myself Leaving You. And then I also listened to her I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You album. Kind of wish I would have done a reaction on this, but like I said, next year I will do an entire review of this album and talk about every song because I really feel like it deserves it. One of her best albums, 1000%. Love it so much. Favorite tracks on here, the title track is just so cool and it sounds like it's time but in a good way. Don't Let Me Lose This Dream is like a top 5 Aretha song for me. I love that one so much. Her songwriting on there is great, of course. I also really quite love her cover of Good Times for sure. Dr. Feelgood is a great song. And then I'm also going to go with A Change Is Gonna Come. A very emotive vocal performance for sure that I really appreciate. You have the classic Respect on here, which is probably her most popular song. Love that one so much. And I feel like I've been appreciating it more in terms of the context of this album. But yeah, a great soul record. If you listen to any of Aretha's albums, you have to check this one out because it is just so excellent on the whole. And then next up is going to be Lady Soul. So my favorite tracks on here, I really like this song Groovin' and also People Get Ready. Of course, I've heard You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman, which is a classic. So those are my favorite songs on that album. I checked out her Spirit in the Dark album, and this album is something that is superb overall. And she's accompanying herself with piano on every single track except for one, I believe. And so that's already ridiculously impressive. I love the background vocal. I love her vocal on here. The writing on here is great. And so favorite tracks on here, I really love her cover of Don't Play That Song. The title track on here is absolutely brilliant. I really love what she tapped into with this one specifically. Oh No, Not My Baby is such a great song as well. You and Me is gorgeous. Try Madness is one that I can appreciate as well. So love this record. One of my favorites from her and definitely one of my most played for sure. The record that she did before this is going to be This Girl's in Love With You. I can appreciate it on the whole. I haven't revisited as much as I would have liked, so for whatever reason I can't remember what my favorite song off of it is, but I thought that this was a great record on the whole. I can definitely appreciate it and what she tapped into in this specific record. I checked out her Young, Gifted, and Black album this year, which was such a treat to listen to. Like I said, at this time of the year, it was just something that I love listening to overall, and so this one had like a lot more gospel than her previous records, at least for me getting into it. I know she did a gospel album. I still have not listened to it at this point. I'm hoping to do it before I do my next video on her for sure, but I love this record. I love the album cover. The title track is absolutely gorgeous. She really tapped into something specific with that one. Daydreaming, it's a song that I discovered sometime like earlier this year, last year, something like that, that I liked. I didn't remember how it sounded. I listened to it again and I was like, wow, that is an amazing record. So she just really ate with the songwriting in terms of that. I also really love April Fools, which is a great track. Then First Snow and Kokomo is absolutely gorgeous. So this is something that feels really cozy to listen to and just a brilliant record overall. Definitely one of her best for me. Next up is going to be Hey Now Hey, The Other Side of the Sky. So this is one that I checked out in my own time and I love this record. Another one that I think has to be one of her best. The title track is a top 5 Aretha song for me. Like the groove, the melody, the vocal, like the chord progression, everything in this song is excellent. I just really love it so much, and every single time that I listen to it, it just continuously blows me away. And so this is one that she wrote, so definitely shout out to her as a songwriter, of course. And then I believe that Quincy Jones produces or something like that, so definitely shout out to him. So I really love this song. And then I also really liked Angel on here as well. And so this one, yeah, this album is solid from front to back. Not a single bad song on here. And I'll probably do an entire review for this album next year because I feel like it really deserves this treatment. Next up, I wanted to talk about Let Me Into Your Life. So I think that the title track is really great. Like I said, Aretha always knows how to open up an album. I really like her cover of Ain't Nothing Like the Real Thing. That was gorgeous. Someone said she won a Grammy for that and she deserved it. I saw something like she won like the best R&B performance or something like that Grammy like every year for like 6 or 7 years straight, something like that, and she deserved because she eats every single time. One of the best singers of all time for a reason, so she actually ate that up. And then you also have Until You Come Back to Me, That's What I'm Gonna Do. And I appreciated the song whenever I first heard it, and then like I said, editing my reaction, I was like, wow, this song is brilliant. And so definitely one of her best songs, written by Stevie Wonder, like a top 5 Aretha song for me as well. I love the melody, I love the chord progression, the lyric, the vocal, the backgrounds, like everything on here is just top tier. So I really love this song as well. And then you also have her cover of With Pen in Hand, which I think was a great song. And then you also have A Song for You, which is just a brilliant closer for the album. So I feel like there's a lot to like about this one. So I enjoyed this record. And then I also wanted to talk about her Columbia album, Laughing on the Outside. So I remember really liking Skylark and the title track as well. I really like whenever Aretha got into her jazz, but it was something that's really interesting. And overall, I think that she was a very versatile vocalist, which, like I said, is something that I really value. I love people who can just sing any genre that they want to kill it. And Aretha definitely is in that category. And so overall, Aretha was such a brilliant artist, and I feel like she really had it all. And it has been such a treat to get to listen to her discography, and she definitely has some of my favorite albums of all time. And so just, man, so many classic albums and songs, and there's so much more to dive into. So next year I'm excited to listen to more of her discography, and like I said, eventually I want to do videos whenever I'm doing full album reviews, and also like ranking her albums from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, that kind of vibe, because I think that that would be a lot of fun to do. So just excited to listen to her music more, to make more videos on her. And the Queen of Soul, versatile, just amazing overall. So I would highly recommend the discography if you've not listened to it. Just so many gems and just so much to deep dive into. And yeah, just what a brilliant artist on the whole. I already discovered Frank Ocean. I think it was like sometime in 2020. Really like his music, but I believe this year was my first time hearing Novacane, which is an excellent song, and it was his debut single. So I really appreciate it overall. And then last up, I'm gonna have Destiny's Child, the 8 Days of Christmas album, the deluxe version, which the reaction should be out by the time that you're watching this video. But I really enjoyed it overall. Great Christmas record. I really appreciated how they were able to kind of take classics and kind of mold it to their style. So I really like Silent Night. I also really appreciated their rendition of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and then they also did this little DC medley. You have 8 Days of Christmas, you have Winter Paradise. So a lot of great tracks on this on the whole, and definitely something that I would recommend if you like Christmas music. I'm one of those people who listen to Christmas music all the way throughout the year. So even though I barely discovered this album, I'll listen to it a little bit next year, and of course a lot whenever the Christmas season comes around, because Christmas music is something that I always enjoy listening to. And the reason why I listen to Christmas music all the way throughout the year is just because I really enjoy it. Mariah Carey's Christmas stuff is my favorite of all time, and so her albums are so excellent. I'm not just gonna wait until the holiday season to listen to it, so I do listen to it throughout the year, as well as the other Christmas music that I enjoy. So I'll definitely play this a few times throughout the year, but I really quite enjoy this on the whole. And that's gonna be it for my favorite music that I discovered in 2022. Overall, I listened to a lot of new music this year, and I feel like I discovered some really amazing artists, songs, and albums, and so it's just really fun for me to just check out stuff that I'd never heard before. And this channel is a great way of documenting it and just kind of getting me out of my comfort zone. I feel like there was a lot to love in this year. I discovered a lot, and so I had a lot of fun doing this video for sure. And of course, I would really love to know what you guys are thinking down below in the comments. Did you check out any of these artists for yourself? What are you thinking? What is your favorite music that you discovered this year? Definitely leave it down below, and let's have that discussion in the comment section, because I would love to know. And if you wanted to see a similar video to this, I actually shared last year my favorite music that I discovered then, and that'll be in the cards right here if you want to check it out. It'll also be the end of this video and linked down below in the description. And before I close out this video, I wanted to say that this should be my last video this year, and so I just wanted to say thank you so much to the subscribers, and just your support has meant so much to me. Whether you started with me at the beginning of the year and you've been watching the whole time, whether you discovered me last year or whenever it is, I cannot say how much I appreciate the support. The nice comments, the engagement, the suggestion, everything means so much. It really makes my day whenever someone says I really enjoyed this video, and just the fact that people even care to just listen to my opinions on music and, you know, want to have discussion with me in the comments and all this stuff. I cannot say how much that means to me. So I wanted to say thank you so much to all the subscribers. Of course, all of this means the world to me, and I wouldn't be where I'm at right now without the support. So just thank you so much for everything that you've done for me this year. I cannot thank you enough. This was a huge year for me. I feel like I've grown so much from whenever I started off the year. I'm just really excited to see, you know, how I grow as a creator next year in terms of the content that I'm doing, in terms of expressing my thoughts. And then I also wanted to say that I'm really excited for next year, of course. I have so many ideas already written down that I would like to do, and I'm sure that I'll come up with more along the way. So I can't wait for you guys to see what I've got coming up next year. So once again, thank you guys so much for the support, and I cannot wait for you guys to see what I've got coming up. But that is going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy it, give it a like down below. It helps me out a lot into the algorithm. I very much appreciate it. You guys can also subscribe it down below if you want to see more videos like this. If you hit the bell, you get notifications to your phone whenever I post, and not miss when brand new videos come out. First link down below in the description is gonna be my second channel. Definitely subscribe if you want to see more of me on there, and hopefully I should have a few new videos out, so definitely go check out what I'm doing on there for sure. I'm also going to have my Twitter. Like I said, I have been doing spaces on Mariah Carey recently, and it's been a lot of fun to do. I feel like I'm a lot funnier whenever I'm interacting with other people, so it's a lot of fun in that aspect, and also just talking about Mariah and educating people. So if you want to hear me talk more about Mariah, definitely go check me out on there. And I actually have this little thread on my account, and that just shows all the Twitter spaces that I talked in, and hopefully more to come, so definitely go check me out on there. Also going to have my Instagram, my Spotify if you like to follow me, of course, and then my TikTok. Like I said, I've been a lot more active on there, just showing a lot more music opinions, and it's been a lot of fun. I've been really creative on there, so definitely go check me out on there if you want to see more of my music opinions. Also, any reactions I've done to these albums will be linked down below in the description if you guys would like to check them out as well. And lastly, I'm going to have links to educate you guys on point situations. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one.